many fine tales of Sherlock Holmes, the case of the dead adventuress.
Oh, it sure is raining out here. Oh, let me come in here today. Let's see what kind of story he has waiting for us. I can't wait. Yeah. Well, good evening, Doctor.
Evening, Mr. Foreman. Take your coat off, and your scarf,
Yes.
and your gloves, and your goloshes. That's it now. It's certainly raining cats and dogs out tonight. Come and sit by the fire, warm yourself up.
Thank you. All set for tonight's story?
Yes, I'm all set, as you say.
Well, last week, you told us about your adventure that took place in France.
Yes, Mr. Foreman. And if you can imagine yourself basking in the sunshine of the Riviera with Holmes and myself in the early 1900s, perhaps it'll help you forget what a beastly night it is outside.
Yeah, I've actually forgotten how that went already, Doctor. How did it begin?
Simple enough. Holmes and I were staying in Nice when we were visited at our hotel by a young Englishman, the Honorable Reginald Shipton. The boy was in serious trouble and had to come to Holmes for help.
And I'm sure he got it.
He did. Well, in giving it, Holmes was arrested for murder.
For murder? Well, say, Doctor, how did a thing like that happen to the great Sherlock Holmes?
Well, that's just what I'm going to tell you. The boy had become involved with a rather notorious French lady, Madame Corvée. She was much older than he, though I must admit, she was a glamorous creature. And the boy's infatuation was understandable, at least. Unfortunately, he had given the lady an exquisite diamond and sapphire necklace. That was a family heirloom, although he overlooked the fact that he had not quite inherited it yet.
Then of course he had no right to make the gift.
Of course he hadn't. And when his father, Lord Shipton, learned what had happened, he threatened to disinherit him unless he got the necklace back. And so, the boy came to Holmes with his problem. At first, the great man tried the ordinary methods of handling the case. He approached Madame Corvée directly and was told to mind his business. He tried persuasion, deception. He even went to the police, but to no avail. Finally, one night, he disappeared. I was frantic because I knew he was in danger, and so I got in touch with the police. Within half an hour, Inspector Sherrill telephoned me to come over to Madame Corvée's villa at once. That Holmes was in serious trouble.
And of course, you rushed over there.
Yeah, as fast as the carriage would carry me. My fears increased as I drew up to the villa, and I saw a cordon of police guarding the building. But as I got inside and saw my old friend, a cold terror struck at my heart. There he was in the library, Madame Corvée lying at his feet, with her throat slashed, and in Holmes' hand was a blood-stained dagger. You can imagine what Monsieur Sherrill, the chief of police, said as I came in.
About 45, cold, precise. Watson, your famous friend has made his last mistake.
Great heavens, what's going on? Holmes, tell me.
Well, Madame Corvée has been murdered, Watson. And unfortunately, our friend Monsieur Sherrill seems to be under the impression that I killed her.
But that's utterly ridiculous.
Is it? Then how do you account for the fact that we came here just now, Mr. Holmes standing right here alone with the corpse?
Well, Holmes, why don't you explain what happened?
Well, Watson, I've already done so, but Monsieur Sherrill doesn't seem to believe me. However, for your benefit, I came back here to try and have another talk with Madame Corvée. I found the front door open and walked in, only to discover the safe looted and its owner stabbed to death. I picked up the dagger from the floor to examine it, and as I did so, Monsieur Sherrill and the police came right in.
I should have thought a great detective like you, Monsieur Holmes, could have thought up a more ingenious lie than that. Take him away.
Come along, Monsieur.
Tell that policeman to take his hands off you, Holmes.
But I haven't the right to, my dear chap. You see, just before you arrived, Monsieur Charel had arrested me for murder.
And there my old friend was, spending the night in custody.
And I suppose you stayed right there with him, Doctor.
No, not for long, Mr. Foreman. He gave me a little job to do. Well, let me just tell you what happened next. The next morning found us in the office of the police. There we were, Holmes and I, Inspector Charel, and the various witnesses connected with the case. It was a strange sight as Holmes stood there, defending himself.
Quiet now. Monsieur Sherlock Holmes is an eminent visitor to our country. That is why preliminary investigation is being held in private. Thought he had been caught under extremely incriminating circumstances, but does at least extend him the courtesy of a fair hearing. Proceed, Mr. Holmes. You have told us you were brought into the case in the first place at the request of the Honorable Reginald Shipton. Am I right?
Yes, Monsieur le Préfect. That is correct.
And is the Honorable Reginald Shipton present?
Here, Monsieur le Préfect.
And do you corroborate the evidence so far given by Monsieur Holmes?
Yes. He's told the truth so far. But if I'd known that he was going to murder Madame Corvi, I'd have strangled him myself. Quiet, quiet. There'll be none of that. Please confine yourself to answering the questions. Proceed, Mr. Holmes. What was your next move?
My client informed me that Madame Corvi was giving a large ball at her villa that night.
And how did you accomplish this aim?
I suggested that he take my old friend Dr. Watson and myself along with him to meet the lady.
And did you meet her?
Oh yes, monsieur. We arrived about 8 o'clock to find a crowd of about 150 or more people, dancing to the music of a string orchestra.
A very distinguished gathering, Mr. Shipton. Madame Corvi must be extremely popular.
Too confinedly popular for my liking, Dr. Watson.
Well, they do put on quite a show.
Now where is Madame Corvi? I should like to meet her as soon as possible. These affairs are not much in my line.
Well, I think it's rather fun if you ask me.
Come again, Watson.
Oh, nothing. Who's this lady?
Oh, no.
Hello, Reginald. I wasn't expecting to see you here.
Well, I'm sorry to surprise you.
Won't you introduce me to your friends?
Madame Leduc, Mr. Holmes, and Dr. Watson.
How do you do?
Hello.
Pleasure.
So all here to worship at the shrine of Venus, I suppose? By the way, Reginald, I thought you had received your conge. From what Yvette told me today, it seemed that...
I'm afraid we're in a bit of a hurry. Good evening, madame.
Not jealous of me, are you, Reginald?
Well, heavens, my soul. My boy. You are extraordinarily rude to her, if you don't mind me saying so.
She's insufferable. I hate her. She thinks just because Yvette smiles.
So I take it the duck is currently the favorite.
Ah, Monsieur Sherlock Holmes. How are you?
I'm afraid I don't know you, monsieur.
No. But I know you. And your friend, Dr. Watson.
Oh, really? I don't remember meeting you, sir.
Gentlemen, this is Monsieur Charel, Inspector of the Police Force.
Pleasure.
How do you do?
When distinguished rivals honor my town with their presence, Monsieur Holmes, I make it my business to recognize them.
That's very flattering of you.
Not at all. You're not here on business, I suppose.
Oh, dear me, no. On pleasure, monsieur. Purely on pleasure.
Splendid. You will find Madame Corvy's parties enchanting, I'm sure. Au revoir, messieurs.
Charming fellow.
Do you think so? He's just another old fool who thinks Yvette's in love with him, too. Oh, there's Yvette now. Come on, I'll introduce you. And then I'll get out of the way. I don't want to talk to her any more than I have to. Yvette! Hey!
Reginald! How nice to see you. I did not know you were coming.
I changed my mind. Yvette, I want you to meet my two friends, Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson.
Enchant, messieurs.
How do you do, Madame Corvey?
I'm extremely glad to meet you, madame.
And I'm going to leave. They want to talk to you privately. Goodbye now.
Reginald, you silly boy, come back here. He is so young, isn't he? Youth has a charm all of its own, messieurs. But for a woman like myself, I find it a little trying for too long at one time. It is more soothing to be with people my own age, like yourselves.
Awfully nice of you to say so, madame. But I know we're both a great deal older than you are.
Nonsense. But your friend, he has, how you say, the long face. What is the matter, Mr. Holmes?
Nothing, madame. Except that I'd like to have a little business talk with you.
Business? With this music playing? No, no, no. Your friend shall dance with me.
I would be very proud to take you for a twirl, Madame Corvey.
Forgive me, madam. And Watson, old chap. But I must insist on his business talk first.
Business? You are very tiresome. But because I like your friend, I will talk business with you. Come and sit over here.
Now the diamond and sapphire necklace you are wearing, madame. I presume it is the one Lord Shipton's son gave you.
Yes. What of it?
Do you mind if I examine it?
Yes. I do very much. What are you, a diamond buyer?
No, I am a friend of Mr. Shipton's. He asked me to try and persuade you to return the necklace to him.
The insolent puppy. It is mine. He gave it to me in front of witnesses.
He had no right to, madame. It did not belong to him.
Then he is a thief, and that is no concern of mine. He made a gift, and I accepted.
Well, would you consider, selling back your gift?
No, I would not.
Are you sure? Reginald would pay a fair price for it, and it may have depreciated in value since you received it, you know.
Go away. Go away before I have you thrown out.
I really am awfully sorry, madame. My friends really,
Both of you, go away, you bore me.
Well, on my soul, never seen a woman change her tune so quickly. Fascinating creature, though. If there's one thing I like in a woman, it's spirit.
Nonsense. Madame Corvy's an adventuress.
But what makes you say that, Holmes?
Because, although she wouldn't let me examine the necklace, I was able to detect that the diamonds have been replaced by imitations.
Good land. You mean that you sold the originals?
Undoubtedly. Sold them. Or kept them.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes, my boy. I was just looking for you. What's wrong?
I want to leave here at once. I just heard that Yvette's going to announce her engagement, and I do not want to stay to hear it.
I quite understand. Though if I were you, I would be relieved rather than upset by the announcement.
What did she say to you when you asked her about the necklace, Mr. Holmes?
Very little. But I have a feeling that you might be able to buy it back for a reasonable sum.
But I've tried that, and she wouldn't part with it.
Then try again, my dear boy. I think my little conversation with her tonight might cause her to change her opinion as to its market value.
Loud production. Stay tuned for the next episode.